the Dow Jones collapsed, and its day, the loss in one day was the worst in 120 years. So if anybody said, oh, look, it's not that serious because the Dow Jones is now creeping back up again, it was serious. It'd be like me saying to you, you know what? Great Britain had the coldest winter for 120 years. So the Dow Jones lost in one day the greatest amount that is ever lost in 120 years.
Wow.
That's very important. There was some talk that the Rothschilds would crash the system when the Dow reached 30,000. I never agreed with that and publicly came out and said it would be around about the 28,000, because there just isn't enough money to take the Dow to 30,000. So what we've seen is the beginning of a long-term decline. The British Stock Exchange has taken a hit today, and that is not doing well. You're right about the deals being done in Germany. I can tell you the city it's being done in, and it's Frankfurt. So it's Frankfurt where the money is being
exchanged. Makes sense, based on some other information I have, yes.
Right. For a very, I'm just looking, I was jotting down your questions or trying to as you were talking to me. The Dow Jones has, since the 50s, funded the American military. That's no any general, admiral, or US fighter man or woman will know that that's where their money has come from. But they never got enough from there. So they then started to do other forms of trading. You're right, originally it was the CIA, but then the FBI wanted a slice of the action. And that's why we still have this corruption in the Edgar Hoover building. You've got 4 people in the FBI who probably are going to lose their jobs very shortly. They have managed projects that have not just funded the secret space program, that seems to take the headlines, but there are projects like the new development of MK Ultra. All of those projects, those are funded through stock markets. And that's what people don't seem to understand. They're not funded through the taxation directly, because that's traceable. The more that electronics are used to pass money, the easier it is, frankly, to do this. When back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s, when projects were being funded clandestinely through government, the trick here was that let's say a committee in the US gives a military department, let's just say 1 million, as for argument's sake, 1 million. And it's wrong to say that the members of that Congress or the Senate are doing this in faith, because most of them know what's going on. Most of them are involved. Most of them are blackmailed. Not all of them, but most of them are blackmailed in some shape or form. So they sign off 1 million. And what happens is that at the end of that financial year, that committee used to write to that organization and say, can you tell us, please, what you've done with the 1 million? And there would be a standard letter that would go back, which would say something along the lines of, well, we haven't been able to do anything with it yet, but we are progressing nicely. Please check back with us next year. And the next year, that letter comes back and says, can you tell us how you're doing with that? And the standard letter comes back, well, we haven't had any success yet, but we know that you are supporting us, and thank you for and so it goes on. Well, they got sick and tired of that, so now they do it so that nobody actually knows. It's all done electronically on the ground floor. So black projects don't just mean space program. They mean everything from torturing babies right through to developing bribes for off-planet entities for the transportation of humans off this planet. Even people who believe that they understand the subject, many of them will be heartily shocked to know just what those black projects are funding and the staggering amount. And I say to my American colleagues, if you want to know why you've got a hole in the sidewalk, if you want to know why the rusty girders are falling off your bridge, this is why.
Sure.
Because at a
Absolutely.
stroke, If these black projects were cancelled within the period of 12 months, the United States of America would have no unemployment. There would be no bums sitting on the street. There would be no need for DOS houses. Your country would be shining bright, just as the founding fathers wished it should have been. And it's because of a small handful of evil, blood-sucking vampires who are stealing the money from the citizens for their own evil purposes. And frankly, it's got to stop. And that is what the black projects were. It was a way of not being accountable to the citizens of the very country who they steal from.